after them, plural. All right, 1 Corinthians 15, verse 46. This is just a principle. That's all it is. However, the spiritual is not first, but the natural, then the spiritual. I know I'm lifting it out of context, but it's a principle. He's saying a principle that is, throughout Judaism. And here's the principle. Principle is you have to have a model to look at to see something spiritual, or else you don't see what's spiritual. The physical first, then you look at it and you get something spiritual. That's Judaism. The physical first, you must have a model to look at, and then it gives you other information. It's a metaphor. Now that's a principle. Now because of that principle, everything in Judaism is a picture of something spiritual, something up. Jerusalem is the same way. Yerushalayim me'olah, Jerusalem ascended or above, and Yerushalayim matah, down, below. There is a Jerusalem on earth which reflects Jerusalem in heaven. You have the physical, which reflects the spiritual. Why would God say tzedek tirdof instead of tzedek tirdof? Run after righteousness. That's enough, isn't it? Run after righteousness. But he doesn't. He says, run after righteousnesses. Both of them. It's kind of weird. Go to Matthew chapter 5. Here's the answer. This is an actual answer I'm going to give you. I don't do much. I don't do that very much. Matthew 5:20. Matthew 5:20 says, I say to you that unless your tzedek, your righteousness, surpasses that of the scribes and Pharisees, you shall not enter the Malchut Shamayim, the Jerusalem in heaven, the kingdom of heaven. You can't get up to that Jerusalem unless what? Unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the Pharisees. That doesn't mean what many people in the church have said it means. Because with many people in the church, they cast the Pharisees as the bad guys, which they were not. The Pharisees were the good guys. The Sadducees were the bad guys. The Sadducees were the Hellenized guys. They were bad. They were evil. They were Hellenized. They didn't care about spiritual things. The Pharisees cared about spiritual things maybe too much, and they went overboard. Yeshua was a Pharisee. Paul was a Pharisee. It's kind of like, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The Pharisees and the Sadducees. Well, which camp were you in? What was your family doing? Well, Paul says, I was a Pharisee. Yeshua was a Pharisee, and all of his Talmidim were Pharisees. They were spiritual. They were not Sadducees. So, say it again. That's correct. In Philippians, Shaul says, I am, present tense, a Pharisee of Pharisees. That's right. In other words, he was in the top echelon of the Pharisees. It's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So Yeshua says, unless your righteousness is bigger than that righteousness. What does that tell us? There's two righteousnesses. There's one of the Pharisees, which is good. It's righteous. But there's another one. There's a better one. There's another one. And you can't get that one that's up, Jerusalem above, unless you find something more than the Pharisees and the scribes have found. Yes?
Do you have the portion about Pharisee is the same word as parsha?
I don't know that. You're more familiar with that than I am, so I can't. You're smarter than I am. So, Yerushalayim Me'olah, the one above, has a different tzedakah, a different righteousness. It is the righteousness of those 7 bowls in the menorah. Chachma, I gotta do it this way. Chachma, Bina, Etza, Gevura, Da'at, Yirat Adonai, and Adonai. Those 7 Those 7 bowls on the menorah, it says in the Bible, are in heaven. It says that they're in heaven. That's where our righteousness is supposed to come from. Now, how do you access that? That's the trick. How do you get those good decisions so that you don't have to call a rabbi and say, Rabbi, what do I do? Which we all do. But we don't need to. We should be able to be making good, righteous judgments. Righteous judgments. If any case is too difficult for you to decide between one kind or another, you shall what? You shall what? Arise. Me'olah. It's the same word as Yerushalayim Me'olah. Jerusalem above, ascended, high. You shall get up, arise, and go to Hamakom, the place. The place is heaven. The rabbis have all said Hamakom is God's house in heaven. They get that, they get that from Genesis, where Jacob, he sees that ladder going up and down from Bethel, which he names Bethel, to heaven. And he sees heaven. And it's a perfect connection between where he is and heaven. Well, where was he? He wasn't in what's Bethel today in Israel. He was in Jerusalem at the Temple Mount. That's what all the rabbis say. And it's a direct connection, like an umbilical cord, right from Jerusalem below to Jerusalem above, from Hamakom on earth to Hamakom in heaven. And it says to make righteous judgments, you got to go up there. We have to go up there to get it. You go up to the place, Hamakom, which the Lord your God chooses. Well, what's the place the Lord our God chose? Jerusalem. Yerushalayim, Jerusalem. Come to the Cohen, the priest, or the shofet, the judge. Inquire, and they'll tell you the verdict in the case. Do according to the terms they declare. Well, who do we go to in heaven? Yeshua, by the Spirit of God. Now, this freaks me out that Christians, for the most part, don't know this. They don't know that the Spirit of Yeshua, that the Spirit of God is the Spirit of Yeshua. I've asked many people, a lot of Messianic Jews don't know this, that the Spirit of God is, let me say it this way, is the Spirit of Jesus. The Spirit of God is the Spirit of Jesus. A lot of people don't know that. I don't know why, but they just don't know it. So we have to go up to Jerusalem, not America, not the church, not some American thing, to Jerusalem in heaven to get a verdict from the Cohen, the priest, which is Yeshua, and the Shofet, which is Yeshua. Inquire, ask, and they'll declare to you the verdict. And then what does it say? Do exactly what they tell you. Don't deviate from the right or the left. And you'll get understanding. You'll get a decision. Exodus 24:8 says, Ve'asu li mikdash, v'shachanti betocham. Let them construct for me a sanctuary that I may dwell in them. Betochem. Not that I may dwell among them in their camp, that I may dwell inside them. Va'asu li mikdash. Let them build for me a sanctuary. V'shachanti betocham. That I may live inside of them. Now, you got to follow me on this because this is hard to figure out. This is hard to figure out. We have to go up to Jerusalem ascended to get these judgments, to make righteous judgments. Does that make sense so far? Yes or no? Okay, so that's clear. Here's where it gets fuzzy. Where does it say in the Bible that Zion or Jerusalem is inside of us? If we're supposed to go to Jerusalem, to Jerusalem ascended to get a righteous judgment from Yeshua, you talk to most people and they say, well, how do you do it? Well, I pray and Yeshua's in my heart and he'll give me an answer. Well, where does it say that in the Bible? Where does it say that Zion or Jerusalem is in our heart? Where does it say that? I thought and thought and thought, and I couldn't think of it. And then I thought of it. And that's it. Build me a sanctuary, a physical tabernacle, so that I can what? Dwell inside them. Don't build me a right heart. Don't build me a beautiful attitude. Don't build me a wonderful spirit. Build me a physical tabernacle so I can dwell inside you. In other words, you must have the physical for you to have the spiritual. You've got to have something to look at to figure this stuff out. Does that make sense? Psalm 84. Here's another one I thought of. Now, maybe you guys can think of others, but these are the ones I could think of. And maybe there's a whole bunch and I'm just not thinking of them. I really don't know. But have you ever been asked, where does it say in the Bible that Zion or Jerusalem is in your heart? Have you ever been asked that? Have you? That's a weird question, but everybody says it, everybody believes it. Where does it say it in the Bible? I pray and I just go to Jesus in my heart. Okay, fine, that's great, but where does it say it in the Bible? You've got to have proof. You've got to have proof. So maybe you've got some that I don't have. I'd like to know what they are. 84:4. How happy are those who dwell in your house, in God's house. They are always praising you. How blessed is the man whose strength is in you, in whose heart are highways. It does not say in whose heart is highway to Zion. It says in whose heart is Masilot, is highways. But then it says Zion after that, verse 7. They go from strength to strength. Everyone appears before God in Zion. So that's why they translate it as highways to Zion. Because it says in the heart, right here, not here, in your belly. That's where your heart is, right there. That's right, you got two hearts, right? So your heart